That's on them. That's their
We're
fault.
just gonna use the podium mic tonight.
Just the podium mic.
We got
We got mics everywhere. Which way? You
Okay.
need to be mic'd up.
Who's going first?
We'll go first. I feel like tonight's the night we should try this.
Cake pressed.
no. You want to try that? We'll try it later.
No, right?
Seriously though, can we like stop for 5 minutes and see if we can do it? Again,
Do I have to go through my shirt?
It would be nice to know.
right? Like, why have you guys never tried? Is it a Chris thing? Is he too scared?
One might we need Chris.
Chris wouldn't know nothing.
At least it would have been like a third person that he would have been here earlier than Dad. We had problems with the projector, and then we had problems with that. And that.
You know what we need to get?
All right.
We need to get TVs.
Shush.
Good evening. Welcome each of you with us this evening.
We need to get TVs instead of a big thing. We'd like put one each side. Yeah. Anyone need a projector that's 95 years old?
Actually, yes.
Or if we have a check, we'll put that on the bottom of the check as well, place it in the box in the back. As far as all the privileges, I think Barbara had a good meeting downstairs, the planning and police, seminar coming up. For 16th, so we're excited by that. There were a lot of announcements in the bulletin, some of which you must pass. If you have not.
It wants the password. I don't know the password. It just normally just goes away. I guess it's got to do with limit.
Ladies breakfast, also this Saturday at 10 o'clock. So when you ask, there's no signage. Very important, there's no signage. There's about 11 other signs.
We had to avoid this down somewhere.
But not one.
Just try.
Where's that little book that the battery charts in?
No idea.
So that's at 10 o'clock on Saturday
Why do you
morning.
need that?
And then.
He wants to run this out. So we need to have it right now. It's just one less person that's back here.
Your pen mark there in Olive, and that's coming up for the
I
night.
swear if it's potato 45.
Also be participating in Elmer.
Guess who probably came up with it? You at the age of 12.
No, Jerry.
Wow.
Got almost not saying that.
Why not just click with my name? Is this on? Is this on?
Should be downstairs.
Okay, well, I just clicked something with my knee, so it's on downstairs. That's why. I went, oh, you hit something. And now it's on.
And we invite you to come out and ships. Morning shift and day shift, and that's not what we have a lot going on.
You need to change that.
Why does he have to the door?
We also have missionaries for the week, for the auctions, that's why the fellowship, remember them and their ministry as well.
Listen, I'll trade. You can clean the church and I'll do this.
You're treating him to paint position for the unpaid position. Like
No, I would still get paid for this.
a salary job.
He would not. I would still get my cleaning salary.
Background lights need to be on recording. Red one.
No, not the red one, which actually isn't even on. Did you turn it off?
I just turned those off, I'm sorry, just because it was washing out the picture.
Yeah.
And then, oh, you wanted to see him first, or what you
He's
think?
in the dark.
He's not in the dark there. He's fine.
People can see him. If you can't see him, you got eye problems. You got eye doctor.
I can see him. You can't. He's very tan. You have to see
You know what I missed? You know what, dude? I ain't even taking any chances. I'm not taking any chances. We all need to tell you this.
Holy Spirit, actually.
She said that this morning.
Amen. Good having Pastor Steve with us this evening. We have the Lord used you this morning at Spruce Street. If you would, have this brochure.
I don't know.
What's the name of my first dog? Molly. And meanwhile, one day when you're dead, you'll be able to answer the question.
Well, okay.
Where's our pigtail?
Up by the pool.
Shell! Long time no see. How you doing? This is fun that there's a window. I know, right?
Top secret.
How often
Hi,
do you
Shel.
close the glass?
Never.
Okay. I was just wondering if you ever did, so you could talk about things. So they hear you
Well,
not
That we do.
When you guys are up there and it's all quiet and you just hear it slide, you think they're about to talk dirty about somebody. Guess what?
Hello.
Hello.
stranger. Never seen
Thanks for having me.
that came. Hello.
Hello.
All right, please, everyone, may be seated in prayer for 206. There's a Redeemer. 206. 206.
Good thing you put quotes in my back pocket.
Well, do you need to say
He's cool. That was the first mistake. Would you like me to give it till 9:30?
Sing that third verse, acapella, verse and chorus, acapella. When I stand.
I can't do it. I need to hear it first. As I turn in on that, wow, come on here.
There's this thing you have.
I don't know how loud it is out there. I got this door here turned off, so loud in my head.
Thank you, my Father.
What is that?
14.
I got a free update.
It's not free if it's paid.
I took off my mobile phone plus $8 a month.
Yeah, my normal for both 25. Sucks here.
Now, why is
Pull the headphones out.
Thank you. Shoot, which one's Caitlin?
Are we on?
Girl.
Thank you, everybody. We're so excited to be here to share this night with Caitlin. We're sort of just the opening act for the thing. So we just wanted to thank everybody for your prayer and support for the mission. And so we wanted to share a little bit about that. We wanted to tell you a little bit about what our days look like, so you know what we're doing. Jeff and I started with a leader meeting every morning. And the leadership team there at the campus, like, they're just amazing. They formed all of these relationships within the area of Dallas, Pennsylvania, South Spring, and parts of Alabama. There's one Christian organization that we went to, but other than that, we took this organization in the community, established relationships with, and that week we're in camp from all the different teams that went out. We served 53 different locations. So it's really cool, and we all know these shirts, why is that doing this? Like, why are my teenagers coming here? So it's a great opportunity to teach them why you have the answer for why you serve and why you want to serve people. So we had our leadership meeting, we were talking about today, we had a breakfast, and then we came to the team building, and we had our team small thing. And then we would have worship, and the music group that was there was the day a week. We went through a little bit of their music for 30 minutes. We would then have a message and a promotional and sort of a send off for the team for the day to get us prepared in our first ready. And then we would go and serve. And so we took a bus every day. We would have lunch provided by the camp. And then we would get back to the camp anywhere between 2:30 and 3, depending on how far away we were. And then they would have some free time. They could do the big swing, the bob, canoes, all sorts of fun activities. We would have dinner. We would have another time of worship. We would have another message, and then we would have camp free time at night, and the night like volleyball. Thursday night was a talent show, so all different ways to spend time together.
I think you're supposed to clap out.
Okay. Oh, yes, this is great. So you remember that Sunday, those of you that were here, we prayed for us before we were sent off, and it was very great. And as you can tell, like I've never been in for 70 cents, and I've never been on there where it is flooded. So one part of it is flooded all the way to the right. And then we went like, 5 miles, and then and we had no idea. Eventually, and was saying a little heads up for us, like just before we got there, we could see it. So this is just shows you the visual, the importance of praying, because like there was so many things that could have gone wrong just getting there. We were thankful that you guys prayed for us. We got through all of that, and we actually there's a girl in their bunk beds, and we got to stay in the newest of all the whole campus, and it was really nice. There's the camp where you don't have a bathroom or shower indoors. Can't say, but we did.
Why do you have this on now?
We were happy about that. And a microwave. It was really
Plus
rough.
Jen wanted it. Jen wanted it.
So day one, every group gets assigned to stay at the camp, and we work with the camp one of their days. So we had the place we were supposed to go Monday, canceled, they had an emergency. So we ended up staying and we needed. And if you ask the girls, it was, they're like, we're gonna do it for Jesus. So, and people said, those girls are great, you really need. So, and they had me. They did a great job. It was hot, and there was lots of places all around the camp that we cleaned up. they also did over here was the big bushes, they cleared out thorn bushes, like they were huge. They had just taken over the ravine, and so they were cutting, and we were actually pulling the big, limbs.
Yeah, you go down the ravine, back up the hill, up into the woods, and then chuck them into the woods. So they were doing some hard labor that day.
So the second day, we went to something called the Shoemaker Mission, and this is a place to go where, if you've been displaced, whether you've had a fire or there's, like domestic violence and you're staying somewhere and you need supplies, people would come here. And it just happened to be the day that we went, there was like a couple of carloads of big items. There was, a marble end table, right? Marble end tables and beds, right? Mattresses, like things, and the women that are working here are very old, and it would have been really hard for them. So they really were very thankful that we were there, and the girls, we all got everything in for them, and we got to talk to them, and we also got to build some emergency bags and some school bags also downstairs in that with them, so that was really great.
Yeah, and those kits that we built, they're through Mission Central, but they will go out all over the world. They're very specific about what things can go in there. We didn't make any of them, but these are more birthday kits that were extremely basic for third world countries that have like absolutely nothing. They didn't have us making those that day, but that's the group that they work with. And it's really with these two ladies, mainly, one of them is actually Udemy, so they were training her friend. They take volunteers over to answer phone calls and show up, and since COVID especially, they've been really short on people to help them. So when these loads come in, a lot of the people who are donating can't physically get that stuff out of their cars, and they don't have a good way to get them in. So we really appreciate when they have young help. And then this was the day we were so excited to go here. So this was a Christian radio station, and they have a site in for like 30 years, and I think this one in Dallas, Pennsylvania has been on the air for 40 years. And so it's really cool. They showed us the radio station, and then they also have a 14,000 book library. And so some of us were in there, it was, I think, $5 to join for the year, but people come and there's all kinds of Christian books and media in there. It's really cool. And then outside, they have a pavilion because they're all listener supported. So they will host dinners and things. So the rest of the group, we were with Pittsburgh that day, they scraped and painted their picnic tables. And some people may or may not have more paint on them than a picnic table, which you will see a picture of later. Oh, and we did window cleaning. Oh, we was on the inside and Jen and I did the outside.
And the speaker's daughter, so you'll see our speaker, his daughter actually works for this radio station. There she is in the back. Oh, are you proud of me?
Brings a tear to my eye.
The fourth day, we were at the food bank, and this is a huge facility. It's almost like going to like a box house or something really huge, filled with
I need to
food.
take it.
And we were able to do, I think, talked about doing 3 pallets full of boxes. So we were on an assembly line, I think it's right there, you see it. And we each had a job, like just one, what did you guys all have? What did you have? Sweet potatoes. So they had to put the exact amount in, and nothing more, nothing less, and then you just feed it down the line. So we did that, and we did, I think, like 3 pallets full of food that day, and it was a blessing.
So those particular boxes go out to the senior citizens of the Ford County area there, so they make, I think she said 2,800 of those boxes a month. So you can imagine, they really rely heavily on volunteers to come in and they do that. There was somebody coming for 3 hours later that day to do the exact same thing. But it was really cool because we have such a heart for having our food pantry, but she did a lot of teaching for the kids about the difference between pantry and event and how there's so much food hunger in our area. I know, they're gonna all tell you their favorite day, and almost all of them are gonna say this day. I don't know if anybody wants to talk about it. Go ahead. Well, you want to explain it now since we're gonna say it? Okay. So this was the meadows, just the living, Children's Group had gone there at the beginning of the week and they'd gone before. And so we had the opportunity to go back to them on Friday, and it was such a blessing. And I will say, we played bingo with them in the beginning, and then they all went to lunch, and our child was really, if they wanted company at their table, we could go and make conversation with them. And some of them wanted to focus on their food for a little while, but the kids just walked right up and had conversation, learned a lot, some of them were really cool people. And then there also was a little bit of a game time. You'll see a picture there where Aubrey's running a game and has to scramble words. So she was writing on the whiteboard. And then we went in, and the Pittsburgh group, there are a lot of musicians with them, and so they formed a concert. We tried to take some favorites and do the best we could with those. The girls got up and sang with them also, so I could not get the videos of them singing to upload, but they were beautiful. So if you ever want to see them, a room full of people at assisted living with our kids singing, Because He Lives is pretty awesome. So they had a lot of, they made some new friends, and they were excited, they wanted to know when we could come back.
She keeps pointing it that way.
So this was, the worship team that was there, they did their team and they had
Switch to those.
4 little girls with them, and they were there also worshiping with us, which was really cool. And, you'll hear their songs when we play at the end, we have all of our pictures rolling, it's the 2 songs that they learned that.
They were really fun. In fact, at the end of the week on Saturday, Deandre and Caroline got baptized, and they came down with the whole family. I mean, Tampa was actually Dutch. They came down, some people came down to the beach to really watch them, and they were just there, high-fiving Caroline. So this is our team building that I mentioned. Every morning after breakfast, we had to do team building. We do not have a picture of day one, and we were not very successful in our team building with day one. It was even not meant to go well. But then we had rock, paper, scissors, squad, and Cheyenne Higginbotham is the champion of Provision 2023 for all of us. We didn't actually have that skill, but we had it. And then these are just some fun pictures. It was a lot of fun exercise, the things that we just like to do. With the girls, it really good. I know.
So this is Reverend Wayne, he's in that picture at the with the girls, and then the different times, and then of course the baptism there at the end that I know we're gonna talk more about. But he really challenged the girls and us as well. He started off with a saying of insecurity ignores your purpose. So a lot of us have some big insecurities, and that sometimes will keep us from ignoring our purpose that God has called us to. So we really talk about that almost like every day, because we were serving.
We spent a lot of the week talking about Peter. And I think it's interesting, all of us having grown up in a church really felt like we learned something and looked at Peter's life and his example a little bit differently, which was really cool. We talked about the ABCs of what Jesus said about serving, the attitude of Jesus, the behavior of Jesus, and the concern of Jesus. And these were things that we had a lot of talks about in our small groups that really, God was really working on all of us about this.
He did challenge us that we will get distracted by people and things, and talk about us, even saying that those who walk with Jesus got distracted. Forgiveness frees us to follow Jesus was another thing, and that was the night I believe that the girls got to write down some sin in their life that they just wanted to lay at Jesus' feet. Well, he had like a great visual for them. He had like a fish tank, if you picture it, with water, and they got to write down something that they were struggling with, and they got to put it in this water, and it's like evaporated. Like it's kind of like a visual to them that what Jesus did washes away your sin, and that thing that you're struggling with, say that Jesus' feet, he's gonna take care of that for you.
And then that was followed by that third picture there, was Thursday morning, and before we went out, we had a challenge talking about what Jesus did and his sacrifice for us. And then, if you can imagine, over 150 kids understanding that and then taking communion, and then going out to serve and be the hands and feet of Jesus, it was really, really And I think one of my favorite illustrations, when the band was playing, I think it was Thursday night, his guitar string broke, just popped off. And it was sort of the end of the music anyway, we went to the lesson. But the next morning, Wayne came up and he was waving around the broken string. And I've been around guitars my whole life, but I thought this was a cool illustration. He was explaining that, that string was free, right? Like it could go and do whatever it wanted to do. But in reality, once it was free, it was never going to be able to serve its purpose. Whereas the new string that was put on was tightened, it was stretched, but it was connected to the head. And that's why we need each other. We need to be connected first to the Father, and then we need to be connected to each other and to the body, because that is how we fulfill our God-given purpose. And I was like, wow, all from a broken guitar string. So that was really, we all walked out of there and we were like, that was powerful. So he his personal testimony, he went through sort of unbelievable story. He shouldn't be alive by any human standards of the cancer that he went through. But he progressed and showed that and explained that to the kids throughout the week. And I really think that he was just connected with them as well. And now the girls are going to share a little bit about what their favorite day was as far as their service work and why, and then something that got taught them.
So my favorite day was when we went to the assisted living, because I got to talk to a lot of people who went through a lot of life experiences, and it was just great to talk to them.
Nobody's watching.
And Jeff touched on my other a little bit, but something that really spoke to me was that insecurity is ignore your purpose, because anxiety has always been something that I struggled with, and I felt like God was really speaking to me through that.
My favorite day was day 2. We went to Shoemaker Hub, and it was my favorite because there was like 3 older women, and they were pretty old, and they were there alone, and they were doing all this work by themselves, and they really didn't have a lot of help, but they were still working very hard. So it was very inspiring. And I think that my biggest takeaway from the week was that you don't have to always do the biggest thing. Like there's missions all around. They have so many little things that we can do.
My favorite day was Friday when we went to the assisted living home, like Overstep, and I got to sit down with a lot of people at lunch. But somebody that stood out to me, his name was Wally, and he said he used to be a famous musician, and we looked him up that day, and he came up on the internet, and he said he didn't want to get out, but when he was talking about his concert, he said he wanted to try to make it. When he was there, it was really sweet. And then a few things that Wayne said that stood out to me were forgiveness frees us to follow. Don't place faith on emotion. If you wait for someone else to include you, you won't find the purpose God has in store for you.
My favorite day was Wednesday when we went to paint at a radio station, and I went to interview with a ton of people from Pittsburgh too. And something that stuck out to me was the letting go of your.
Yeah, you want to share the other really big thing happening here?
I got baptized.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Friday night ended with, we had a campfire with s'mores, and then with our baptism routine. It was very informal, but it was a chance for them to share something. Keon Bright from Pittsburgh, with a couple of Carolina both shared things about their life, and then Sherman, then they would get baptized there. So Reverend Wayne did that before our closing Saturday morning, and they invited a breakfast, anybody from camp who wanted to come down. So it was really cool if you watch the video to see so many of the campers come down there to watch that.
I think she's ready for you.
That's it, we're gonna show you our pictures.
I got it.
Cole, how do you zoom in on the video?
Too long I left the world to find me, kids in my mind.
break me out and send the flame inside me, leaving it behind. Sorry, go for all that you take me. Now I can see. Jesus, you're the only one who gets me. You want me to be. Your love, your love, your love, your love leaves me. Come on, come on, come on, set my heart free. No one, no one, nobody else gets me. Your love, your love, your love, your love makes me so. Oh, your love makes me so. Born and brave, the spirit redefines me. A life you desire. Flying free, no turbulence can stop me. I'm leaving it behind. Sorry, go for all that you take me. Now I can see. Jesus, you're the only one who gets me. You want me to be. Yeah. Your love, your love, your love, your love makes me. Come on, come on, come on, set my heart free. No one, no one, nobody else gets me. Your love, your love, your love, your love makes me so. Oh, your love makes me so. Oh, your love makes me so. Oh, your love makes me so. Oh.
Just about half an hour.
River high, or valley low, with me everywhere I go. Ocean wide, or midnight ride, go with me till the morning glow. Barren desert, mountain peaks, no matter where I run, you're within reach. Inside me, you're riding a tale of a world of adventure. Out of the world, wherever you go, take me with you. With the wind at my back and a passion to grow, take me with you. You and I, there's no one else I'd rather have to share my time. Magnify, you're laughing me for I see your love sublime. Barren desert, mountain peaks, no matter where I run, you're within reach. Inside me, you're riding a tale of the world's adventures. Out of the world, wherever you go, take me with you. With the wind at my back and a passion to grow, take me with you.
No. He was just, your husband was joking. He was like, yeah, so this is like, I was like, that's why you always overestimate your time instead of underestimate. They were like, how long are you and I should have heard Operation Stroke this morning before you called her. Because they were like, and she's like,
Thank you all for your prayers for me this past year while I was in France. I learned enough French to go to Chad. I passed my test with a huge answer to prayer. So thank you everyone who is praying for me in that. This year, God really showed me a lot of kindness. And I love this verse here. And the Lord's servant must not be quiet, but kind to everyone, able to teach patiently and enduring people. I feel like I learned some about how to live that, but I was also shown so much kindness by so many people, and that's going to be part of my story today. First, God showed great kindness in giving me a roommate. Some of you know I was planning to live alone when I left, and I have a lot of brothers and sisters, and I'm always around a lot of people, and I was a little nervous about that, but I knew that it was what God was calling me to do, to know. And then through a series of events, I ended up rooting for this girl who is now publicly to Chad, so that's exciting. We used to pray for her. Her name is Gloria, and she also showed me great kindness this year, and it was really a gift from God and a friend that encouraged me to follow the Lord, which is no longer for all of us. And made difficult moments easier. This is when our washing machine broke, and it was midnight, and there was water everywhere in our bathroom, and our clothes were soaking wet. And we just practiced for Chad and hand washed them and wrung them out and hung them to dry. And it was fun. And I was thankful for a roommate, because if I was by myself, I probably would have just cried. But with her, it was fun. I also had a great church there, which also some of you know about. And it was such an amazing thing to be part of a congregation in another country, speaking another language, but especially to sing on Sunday morning and to think like we're all singing and worshiping the same God, and we're all rejoicing about the same Savior, and we all share the same code. And it was something that I knew intellectually and that I loved. It's part of the reasons why I wanted to be a missionary, but it was so just an honor to be able to participate and be a part of their church. And they also served me a lot. They are the reason why I learned French, because they were very patient with me when I just sounded like a child. And another thing that the church did was they actually had nights for international students. And so every Wednesday night, me and Morgan would go. And the girl in the middle here, thank you, Chris, she is a believer who was also a language student just like us. So we were full-time, 4 days a week, almost full-time, taking language courses, and she was doing the same thing as us. But there were a lot of other students there from all over the world who were not believers. And so it was really fun to kind of partner with our church unofficially. We were helping out. They were serving us, but we were also helping them to share the gospel with other students that were our classmates. And it was really fun. So one of the things that we ended up doing through the friendships that we made in our classes was we started a Bible study. And so there were 2 girls who we took classes with,
but then who also came to this international student night. And we decided to ask them if they wanted to study the Bible with us. And they had already showed interest before, and so they agreed. And so we did this particular type of study. Is called the Discovery Bible Study. And the goal is for people to be able to read the Bible by themselves and understand what it means. Not that that means they're not going to church, but so that they're able to independently read the Bible every morning by themselves. And we knew that our time with them was so short. And so we wanted them to be able to learn how to do this by themselves. So we would read the passage out loud, then we would reread it, and then we would retell the story, and then ask these 3 questions. What does this passage teach us about God? What does it teach us about people? And then how can we obey? And we would close asking who would share the things that we had learned with. And we also added another step, which was defining words, because all of us were speaking in several other languages and not our first language. So there was a lot of vocabulary. And some of it is actually on the back table. We mostly just did stories from the Old Testament, but one night we did Romans, and we did all propitiation, justification, atonement, all the big words. And so if you want to try to match them to that, that's what we did in our Bible study one night. But God answers so much prayer in this. There was this girl actually, the one that's on the side here, was very interested. And so the last week that we did these Bible stories, I asked them, what is one thing you learned about God throughout the whole time that we've been studying? And we had done creation and the fall, and we had done some stories about Abraham, but not many. So she said, well, I went back and I read the other stories about Abraham that we didn't read together. And I learned that actually, he wasn't really that great. It was mainly God who was great, and he kept forgiving him and giving him, and he was the one that really did all of the work. Yes, this is great. This is exactly the truth that we wanted you to understand. And so it was really encouraging. One, that she had the interest, that she went back and reread them, and then exactly what we prayed for. The Spirit was working in her heart, revealing truth to her, essential gospel truth. So you can continue to pray for her. Her name is Ako, and she's from Japan. And the other friend from Taiwan. So yeah, these are the 3 questions that we would ask in this one. Another kindness was our French friends who, again, were extremely patient with us, and particularly this one girl, Rosa. And I just wanted to share her story because I think, not really her story, but her kindness to us, because it was very simple. And kind of like one of the girls said tonight, which I'll probably reference again, just the small things that you do with the people that are around you are huge. I'm almost going to cry thinking about it. She just had us over for dinner, and we played a game. I really miss her now. And we ate French cheese. And it really just set the tone for probably our whole year in France. And down to simple things like this became my roommate's favorite meal, and we bought it all the time. This became her favorite game, and I played it probably 10 times just since I've been home with my family. But also, she taught us grammar. Her and her friend, this is her roommate, they both were full-time language students, and they studied grammar. And so they loved talking about grammar, which I never had a friend that we always talked about grammar with, but it was just what I needed in language school. So they would whip out their whiteboard and explain articles and verbs and everything to us. So God really provided in that way. But just her friendship to us was huge, and she was such an encouragement and really a help in learning French, also learning French culture, and also in learning Christianity through her eyes and through a French lens was just interesting to hear and to learn from her. So
I was very encouraged that this was just, she just had us over for dinner and games, and then we continued hanging out. It was huge. A final part of just my time in France, I also took culture classes, not necessarily of like French culture or Chinese culture, but just in general. And we talked about entering a culture well and understanding and dividing between this is my Christian culture, this is my American culture, this is the new culture I'm entering into. And this quote, I think, sums it up well. The gospel must be distinguished from all human cultures. It is divine revelation and not human speculation. Since it belongs to no one culture, it can be adequately expressed in all of them. The failure to differentiate between the gospel and human cultures has been one of the great weaknesses of modern Christian missions. Missionaries too often have equated the good news with their own cultural background. And that really kind of sums up a lot of what I studied this past year. And it was really helpful to think about what am I just bringing from American culture and what is really essential to the Bible and what do I want to eventually teach Chadians. And this was our teacher and one of my team leaders in France. She was a gem. So that kind of, I'm going to just talk a little bit about Chad now, but that was my year in France. And again, I just want to encourage you guys in your acts of kindness that you show to people. The church was so kind to me, and it was in small things and very unspiritual things sometimes. The morning that I was supposed to move out of my apartment, I needed to disconnect my burner, my gas burners, and I didn't have a wrench, and I was like, oh, what are we gonna do? And so I texted my neighbor who went to my church at like midnight the night before, and the next morning he was there at 8:30 with a wrench, and it was like, you are saving me. And it was just a great final act of love, and there were so many that encouraged me, and I'm really grateful for them and encouraged that these are the things that we do as the body of Christ, and they do it so well. And they also taught me how to share the gospel in French, so there were spiritual things as well, but I was just really blessed by them. I went to Tunisia. This is some of the food that I ate, just because everyone always asks about this. It's a lot of cheese, camembert, and food from the market is a lot of saucisson, and I think and the crap. And we had fondue one night, and that's our same friend that did the Bible study with us. All right. I just wanted to share this quickly. I shared this timeline, I believe, with you guys when I was here last year. And I just think it's really cool to see that God has carried you through, and thanks to your prayer and your support. I raised my support while I was teaching full time, which was a huge answer to prayer, and went to language school. And I don't really just want to say that I learned French because I still have a lot more to learn, but I learned enough to move to Chad, and that's really encouraging. And so now I am headed to Chad in 10 days, and I will be working with a lady named Catherine, and I'm just going to share a bit about her ministry, because everything that she's doing is what I will be doing this whole next year. And again, this is a story of not setting out to do big things, but just seeing what's in front and doing the next right thing. And God has sent Easter in a lot of ways. She's a very shy, insecure person who doesn't like to talk in front of people. But she was a teacher, so she started, her and her husband and her 3 kids are living in Chad, and she's just homeschooling them. And then she decides to help in the school for missionary students on Kutu Station, which is where I go to live. And then she sees the needs of local Chadian students around her, and that they're really, really struggling to read. And so she starts teaching them. And then she decides, I've been teaching so much, the teachers here are really discouraged. Why don't I start a club for them? We can encourage each other, and maybe I can help them a little bit. So she starts
starts that. And then she decides, after meeting these teachers and getting more involved with the schools, she realizes there's some schools in Chad that were started by churches, which really just means they're funded by churches, which really just means the church built it, because there's not a lot of money that comes after that. But they weren't functioning in any way as Christian churches or as Christian schools. They were just like the other schools. But she said, no, we couldn't be sharing more in these schools. So she decides to start a program to teach teachers how to integrate the Bible and the biblical worldview with their teaching. And as she's doing that, she realizes one of the reasons they're not integrating is because they don't really know the Bible that well. So she starts a whole other Bible training to supplement this. And then eventually she begins to do literacy training because she's had so much success that just tutoring one or two kids, one or two local Chadians, she's had so much success that they're asking her, how are you doing this? How are you doing this? So she starts a literacy training program. And now she does week-long literacy trainings and library trainings all over the country. They invite her to come, and there's more than what she can do, which is where I come in. So my plan is to learn the literacy trainings, and because they're the most highly requested, and to be able to do those. But I will start with the biblical training. They said, your French is not going to be super great, but you know the Bible, so you should be able to learn Bible stories and tell them. And I was like, okay. So there's some of the papers back there, if you want to look at them, but they are all in French. But you can get some of the things. So I'm just encouraged by her faithfulness to God and just doing the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. And now God is really using it a lot. So all of these things, I will be working alongside of her and doing the next year, maybe 2 years. And then I plan to use some of them and move probably to the northern part of Chad and do a lot of discipleship and evangelism, but I will also do some of these teaching things. I have some pictures of the house that I'm going to live in. So this is it, and that's Catherine. So I do have a normal house, and I have a bathroom. Again, just like the lady shared, it's really a highlight. I have a bathroom in my house. And then the kitchen that functions. There's a gas stove, and that's a water filter next to the fridge right there. And so I do my filters for that. And I have this beautiful porch that I'm excited about. The house that I live in is on a missionary compound that not many missionaries still work on, because now we're mostly living in villages or cities with the Chadians, but Catherine still does trainings from here. So I'm going to live on this compound. So just in closing, and then anyone have questions, just some prayer requests. So Chad borders Sudan, and so currently with the war in Sudan, the conflict area is the area that borders Chad. And so the tribes that are involved in the conflict are tribes that live on both sides of the border. So in Chad and in Sudan, you have the same group. And so there's a lot of family members of Chadians that are in Sudan and being affected by the war. And then also a lot of refugee camps are in Chad. And so this is just a map, like all of the red are refugee camps in Chad, and they're all just full of refugees coming from Sudan. And there's been refugees coming from Sudan for a while, but right now, obviously, there's many more, and people coming from just really severe trauma. And so pray for the war in Sudan. Pray for peace, but also pray for the refugees, pray that they would find hope, and pray also for Chadians, because
in Chad, there's nothing extra. There's not even enough resources in Chad for Chad. Chad is facing starvation every year, and crops are very unpredictable. And so there's not anything really to share with refugees. Not that they don't care about them, but again, they face starvation themselves. So please pray that rain would come, but not too much so that the fields flood, and pray that there will be enough food. And just pray for missionaries to find a balance. In previous years, missionaries have chosen not to work with refugees in Chad because there is some foreign aid that goes to refugees, and no foreign aid comes to Chad because they start kitchen every year, so nobody cares about it. So missionaries have chosen to just work with local Chadians. But now with the refugee crisis getting more and more severe, we are working with some of the refugees. So pray for wisdom there, and just pray that we will be able to share the hope. So my plan is to spend this next year working with Catherine to learn the training, and then after this to move semi-near where some of these refugee camps are, and work in unreached villages and share the gospel, and it will involve walking into a lot of unknown places and praying that God would open hearts. And so I ask for you to pray that with me. Pray that God, even now, would be preparing the hearts of Chinese who I will one day share the gospel with, because we know that it's not going to be up to my convincing. It's going to be the work of the Spirit. And so please pray for that. Pray that God would open hearts, would open minds, that they would see that the gospel is for them. That it's not a Western thing, that it's not an American thing, but it's something that they can have, and that they can experience, and that they can know God and know Jesus. So please pray for that. And then with that, pray especially for them to have courage, specifically people that are converting from Islam. This is just the most difficult and worst thing that they can do as a Muslim. And so pray that they would have courage. There is a lady who was formerly Muslim, who is now a Christian and evangelizes a lot. She faces a lot of persecution, but she is holding fast to her faith. And she shared with the missionaries, she said, I know that so many people in just our village and Birdtown, they live in a big town. She said, I know that so many people think that what we believe is right, and they know that Islam is dead, and they know that Jesus holds the answers, but they're just too afraid because they're going to lose everything, possibly their lives. And so please pray that God would give them courage, and that God would also provide them with a community and with support after they do make that decision. So, sorry, I thought that I had this written down, but I didn't. But thank you so much for your prayers. Pray for me that I would be conformed to the image of Christ more and more every day. Thank you so much. Yes. Yes, I am. So yes, I have my base, so I don't know if I will be taking classes, but I will be very much, I won't be in charge of speaking for at least another year. So I'm still just with immersion. I'm still learning French. After I have French, I will be learning Arabic. But that will come after. But yes, I will. This next year of training with Catherine will also include
What about your visa? How do you get your visa? And they give you 1 year visa.
Yeah, so they give you, I'm going to DC Tuesday, you can pray that I get a visa, but hopefully they're approved. And you just get like a 1 month visa, and then when I get in country, they renew it. And actually, we can get them through the church, which is a really interesting thing in a Muslim majority country. But the church invited us in and worked with them. Very French administration system, so they have lots of administrators and lots of people work. But I get it through the church. I'll be back there if you have any other questions. You can sign up to get my newsletters unless you already have it. Thank you again so much.
One of my challenges would be is God can use men also. You heard the camps that the girls went to, missions that she went to, guys, don't be outnumbered. Right, so next year we're going to see you up here, but it's been a great evening again. And everyone will be in the back there to answer any questions that you have. Again, for all of the young people, appreciate you taking part in the ministry this evening with your testimony. It's important for all of us to hear and see the work that God's calling you and just the camps that you're going to be a spark for you for future missions work and just continuation of that. So praise the Lord for that. We'd like to close tonight, if we could, with 297. 297. David, I'd like to go ahead and I love to tell a story. I sing the new song.
This really is crazy.
I